at hand. But we were just hearing out the DB Corp management. It's had a good listing at 255. One of the bankers, Inam, is with us now. Manish Chokhani joins in from there. Manish, morning. Happy New Year to you. You must be pleased with the way DB Corp listed, 20% above its issue price. Print media is something which has some appeal now for institutional investors.
Well, first of all, very happy New Year to all viewers. And yes, like we had spoken last year, at least in some cases, managements are nice, they listen to you, they do right pricing, and they help investors make money. And the chairman, Mr. Agarwal, who was here earlier at the listing, also said that they've won the affection of their readers. They'd like to do the same with investors as well. So I think it's a really good start to the year to get a listing of this nature, where in December for the first time you had an issue where retail came in almost 4 times their quota. So it was, I think, very important for markets that retail investors make some serious money as well.
I'm going to take you up on that now, Manish, since you have prompted me. Sometimes managements are nice and they listen to us and leave something on the table so that retail investors make money. That's music to my ears. It is a confession from Inam that every other management has not thought this way over the last few months.
Well, I probably walked into that, but no, the truth is it's a difficult balance to run each time. Because for owners, and remember in this case there was an offer for sale as well by a very reputed investor. So it's not that one wasn't aware that this will list well and will have a good price. But eventually it's about building a long-term success record for companies. And in their own minds, a lot of managements, and obviously there are a lot of bankers involved as well each time. One is thinking what is the best possible price to come in at, so that leaves enough on the table for investors as well. While at the same time, obviously people want to maximize for their companies as well. And that's the nature of the beast. And it's not just, individual owners. One has seen government issues as well coming, which haven't done, as spectacularly as one would have hoped for or liked. So it is a fine balance.
Manish, morning. Happy New Year first. The QIB segment was oversubscribed almost 58 times, Manish, and I think Enam garnered almost 50% of that. What is it that the qualified institutional bidders really liked about the story at DB Corp?
I think, the story for India this year clearly is about, domestic consumption and infrastructure, these being the two kind of big standout themes in the current year. And if you are intending to play India and you want to play into really the heart of India, this is really the story of Middle India, where readers across, from the northern states almost right through to the southern states are the audience for this company. And while English normally hogs a lot of the press, the fact is most viewership and most readership in India tends to be in regional and vernacular languages, and this caters really to that. And the company really has a good business model where they've gone and built in very defensible classic Warren Buffett moats. So while in the West you may find readership on the decline and the internet taking sway, India, the first generation of people still coming in to read newspapers and get access into mass media, this is really the first medium through which they come through. So I think company is really on a good wicket for a number of years and should have some serious growth ahead of it.
Sorry, go ahead.
In that, Manish, is India a bit different? Because maybe the early stage investors into the media sector probably went down the electronic media path, because that was the Western example that they had in mind. But that market probably is more competitive. Has the view changed that India might be at a different stage or cycle in its media world, and therefore maybe print, which is declining across the world, may not be such a bad proposition in India compared to the electronic listed media space?
Yes, in fact, from the very early 90s, I remember we had led the IPO for ZTV, which was the first Hindi channel which came out on television. And the theory even then was that print will grow in low single digits. And over the last 15 years, I've seen this growing, in high double digits. And within that, the share of regional print has grown at the expense of English. And one saw similar things happening in television as well, that you yourselves have launched a very successful Hindi channel. Also, apart from the Hindi channels which have predominantly held sway even on the broadcasting side, you have very powerful broadcasters like Sun in the South, which have pretty much garnered 30-40% of all ad dollars in this country. So the story is really of two Indias, where the kind of the metro India as we know it is actually getting over and more by what one calls the middle Bharat, which is really rising. And in a way harks back to what Professor Prahlad calls bottom of the pyramid, harks back to what Ratan Tata is attempting with the Tata Nano and so on. And this is really the story of the next 200-300 million people coming into the consumption basket in India. And one saw recently at the Auto Expo as well that the inflection point for instance, domestic consumption of cars seems to have been hit, where people talk in terms of going from 1 million to 3 million cars over the next maybe 5 years.
On this point of leaving something on the table, Manish, one observation that's been made is that it's the niche stories and companies that don't have an established presence in the secondary market that actually are more willing to leave something on the table. For example, perhaps DB Corp and Cox & Kings is the other one that comes to mind. Would you agree with that criticism, that it's the new guys who are getting into the market who are more keen on leaving something on the table rather than the established ones?
I'm not sure what you mean by new versus established, because all these companies are fairly established. I think it's more a sense of one where the promoters of the company are and how much they think they want to have a pop, if you may, at the time of listing, as opposed to optimizing the pricing. Two is also, I think it's a function of size of issuance. So clearly, if you have a 2,500-3,000 crore issuance, you are unlikely to have that sort of a pop which a 400 crore or a 500 crore deal will have. So there's something to be said for that. And at the same time, I think this whole criticism of pricing is a bit overdone, because I've seen deals where issues have got subscribed 50, 60, 70 times, and then they've listed 30% below. Equally, there are deals which have got done 40, 50 times, and they've not managed to go more than 5-7% higher. So who's to say what is the right level of pricing? And why aren't the same people who are buying in the issue coming and buying it 10, 15, 20% lower and at least bringing it back to listing price? So it seems to be like a secondary market phenomena happening in the primary markets as well, that within 3 weeks your view of a company or the view of a business changes, and which is why the compression of the whole issue cycle is probably heading in the right direction and getting shorter and shorter.
We're just hearing that NTPC FPO might be priced between 240 and 250 from reliable sources. Manish, are you guys involved in the NTPC FPO at INAM?
No, NTPC we're not.
Must ask you for one 2010 comment then, Manish. It's been a big bang start to the year. Is it going to be a surprise one?
Is it going to be a surprise one?
Yeah, on the positive side, not the negative.
I think we'll see both ends this year, because there clearly is a lot of liquidity and a lot of money on the sidelines still, and particularly domestically. So you may have a very strong first half, especially to do with domestic issuances coming, as well as a lot of domestic demand for paper being available, apart from what's happening overseas. But at some point this year, one will also see some sort of unwinding of the whole global stimulus, the unwinding of the whole tax concessions which have been given. So you probably have a year of two halves where you may be 20% higher at some point and then 20% lower at some point, and you still end the year higher than where we are now. And the way we've spoken in the past also is, I just think the intrinsic bands of the market keep moving higher and higher in India, very much like compound interest in a fixed deposit or in a company. So whereas last year the band may have been 14 to 18,000, we probably are a 16 to 20,000 band for the next year, with 2,000 points breakout on either side possible at some point during the year. But I'd be very surprised if we are significantly outside this range over the coming year.
Good talking to you, Manish, as always. Have a good year. Thanks very much for taking time out today. That's Manish Chokhani of NM. Thank you.